April 19, 2026. While most of the dev world was enjoying a quiet Sunday, a post appeared on breach forums that sent a shiver through the Silicon Valley spine. The user was a persona claiming to be shiny hunters. The prize was access to the internal database of Vercel, which is the backbone of the modern web. The asking price was a cool $2 million. But this was not just about credit card numbers. The hacker claimed to have GitHub tokens and NPM credentials, which are the keys to the kingdom for thousands of enterprise apps. If true, this was not just a hack but a potential global supply chain execution. Vercel is not just a hosting provider, as they are the stewards of Next.js. They power massive companies like OpenAI and Pinterest and Bose. When you hack Vercel, you are not just hacking one company, you are potentially injecting malicious code into the DNA of the internet. But how did a billion-dollar titan with world-class security engineers get bypassed? The answer starts in the most unlikely place imaginable, with a Roblox auto farm script. Security researchers at Hudson Rock traced the infection back to February 2026. It did not start at Vercel but at a third-party AI startup called Context.ai. One employee at Context.ai was looking for a shortcut, specifically an auto farm script for Roblox. They downloaded a file that was not just a game exploit but a Trojan horse carrying the Llama Stealer malware. Llama is an infostealer that does not just sit on your hard drive but scrapes your browser for every cookie and every session token it can find. Within minutes, the hacker had the employee Google Workspace credentials and Supabase keys and Datadog logins. But the most dangerous prize was the support email account for Context.ai. Now here is where the context matters, because Context.ai provides an AI office suite. To make it helpful, the app asks for broad permissions, including allow all access to your Google account. A Vercel employee had signed up for Context.ai using their enterprise Vercel email. By doing so, they granted Context.ai, and by extension the hacker who now controlled it, a permanent backdoor into their Vercel Google Workspace. This is a supply chain attack 101, where you do not hit the fortress but you hit the merchant delivering the grain. The hacker used the stolen OAuth token to pivot from the Context.ai environment directly into Vercel internal systems. No password was needed and no two-factor authentication prompt appeared. The token said that I am a trusted employee, and the door swung wide open. Once inside, the attacker began enumerating environment variables. Vercel has a feature where you can mark variables as sensitive, which are encrypted at rest and theoretically unreadable. But here is the uncomfortable truth about modern DevOps: because humans are lazy. Hundreds of secrets, including API keys and database strings and internal tokens, were left in the non-sensitive category. For a hacker, this is like finding a safe that is locked but with the combination written on a sticky note on the door. The attacker moved with what Vercel later called extraordinary operational velocity. They were not just browsing, but they were downloading 580 records of internal employee data and hunting for NPM tokens. When the $2 million demand hit the forums, the panic was real. If the attacker could push a malicious update to the Next.js package on NPM, every install in the world would become a weapon. Vercel leadership took to social media to address the chaos. The company began a frantic rotation war where every suspected token had to be killed and reborn. A limited subset of customers received the dreaded email stating that your credentials have been compromised and you must rotate immediately. Among those most at risk were Web3 and crypto projects. Because these projects often host their front-ends on Vercel, a stolen API key could allow a hacker to swap out a legitimate wallet address for a drainer address. One Solana exchange had to perform an emergency rotation of their entire deployment infrastructure just to be safe. In a twist, some threat analysts began to doubt the shiny hunter's claim. Some believed it was an imposter using a famous name to drive up the price of the data. But for Vercel, the name did not matter because the vulnerability was real. The breach exposed a massive flaw in the way we trust third-party AI tools. In 2026, every employee wants to use AI to be more productive. They click allow all on every pop-up to save 5 minutes of work. But that one allow button effectively places an external and potentially insecure startup on equal footing with your company internal security. So what did we learn from the Vercel incident? First, the sensitive flag is not a suggestion and it is a requirement. If a variable is a secret, it must be encrypted or it is a public liability. Second, OAuth scopes are the new firewall. Companies must move toward least privilege access. Why does a calendar AI need read-all access to your Google Drive when it clearly does not? Third, the Roblox factor shows that you are only as secure as your employee worst habit. An engineer downloading a game exploit on a machine with corporate access is a $2 million mistake waiting to happen. Vercel has since overhauled their dashboard, making it much harder to accidentally leave secrets unencrypted. They have partnered with Mandiant and Google to harden their internal OAuth policies. But the data that was stolen, including those 580 employee records and the non-sensitive keys, are still out there. In the dark corners of the web, $2 million is a small price to pay for a backdoor into the future of the internet. The Vercel hack was not a failure of code, but it was a failure of trust. We trust our tools, and we trust our employees, and we trust the allow button. But in the age of AI supply chain attacks, trust is the most expensive thing you can own. Next time you sign up for a productivity booster with your work email, think about the $2 million ransom. Think about the Roblox script. And maybe, just maybe, read the permissions before you click allow. Stay safe and stay encrypted, and for the love of God, stop downloading auto farm scripts.